to fun time. I'm recording this just after talking to Ivan Rivers. Today's episode, I assume everybody has seen the title. I never understood why podcast hosts are like, oh, who's coming? You, you can see in the picture half the time, including the title, it's like, it's Rob Lowe. It's Rob Lowe. And that's great. I'm clicking for Rob Lowe. But you don't need to hide it. Smartless. Talking to Ivan Rivers was great. We opened the conversation with one of my favorite subjects, George Harrison, and All Things Must Pass specifically, and cover a lot of territory, geographically as well as pop philosophy. We kind of start with that as well. Thank you again, All Things Must Pass. If you like, something that I'm trying to do is start adding just a snippet of when the guest talks about the best song. So you'll hear that you've probably heard that in now the episodes that have been released more recently. But if you like the podcast, follow it, tell your friends, rate it. I'm Alex Southey, and this is Your Worst Song. Okay, good. I want to just speak immediately about All Things Must Pass because I'm maybe like 2 weeks earlier than you. It seems like you're right on the edge of the phase. My phase was like a month ago, but it's all I did was listen to All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. And just for those listening, the reason I'm starting this way is because Ivan Rivers here is wearing a great All Things Must Pass sweater. And remind us where you found it.
Yeah, unfortunately, but fortunately for me, for the sweater, I was listening to the George Harrison early takes, the demo stuff from All Things Must Pass, and right in the little bottom corner was the Spotify merch recommendations. And I'm not typically one to click on that, but it's just a simple. You can't see it if you're listening on streaming services, but it's a burgundy sweater, and it just says All Things Must Pass. And I was like, that is so simple. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, in the beautiful George Harrison lettering, the same as the album. Is there anything on the back, or is it just the? Oh, I
That's,
like that then. That could easily be considered just a fun philosophical sweater as opposed to anything related to George Harrison. Like
yeah,
if you didn't know the font.
exactly. Yeah, just a nice little piece of pop philosophy streetwear.
Exactly, exactly. I love that.
Hmm.
Well, why don't we just talk a bit about maybe where you're based? I know that you're very active in Toronto. You're also living in Toronto?
Yeah, I live in Toronto. I moved back about 2 years ago. I live in the Harvard Village area. And,
Nice. Where were you before 2 years ago?
I lived in Guelph for 5 years. I'm not from Guelph. My sister went to school there, and after I needed a come down period in about 2017 or something, be close to family, so I moved to Guelph and found a nice little home there in terms of friends and pals and that kind of thing. And indoor times hit, and that stuck around for a couple years. And by the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm going back to Toronto.
That makes sense, but I gotta say, as someone who has never lived in Guelph but has now visited a bunch, and I bet even fucking people listening to this podcast are tired of me saying this, I think Guelph is dope. It just has a vibe where they care about the local music. So when you go, you feel like there's a chance I won't just be playing to the other people on the lineup waiting to
On the
play.
bill.
There are gonna be some actual other people just coming out to hear some music, and maybe they'll like it. Um, and not
And
only that, it covers the whole spectrum from like children all the way to university students, all the way to the elderly. They all seem to have an interest in local arts, let's say generally.
well, my first experience was with Guelph was when I was in high school. Summer 2006. My girlfriend at the time, she took me to Hillside.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, Hillside Festival, right?
Hillside Festival,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that was just such a seminal moment because I did my share of Warp tours at that point when I was like 16, 17 years old.
Warp Tour.
Yeah, I went to the Barry Park Place parking lot quite a bit, but this was like my first indie rock festival or like folk roots festival, that kind of hybrid feeling that Hillside is.
Yeah.
And what they talk about Hillside is your hillside moments. Every year you're supposed to have that moment because it's on a literal island, even though they're man-made lakes and man-made bodies of water are surrounding
Uh-huh.
it. you go out there. And mine, 16 or 17 years old. I talk about it a lot, but it was me and my sweetie at the time swimming in the lake in Guelph Lake as Feist is playing Mushaboom. And the moon,
Ooh.
guys, it's sunsetting. We can hear it as we're swimming. 2006, right? So it was like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that was one of the big moments. So yeah.
You lived your very own, like, looking with hindsight, twee
Yeah.
peak moment. Like, that's Joseph Gordon-Levitt would play you in that scene if it was from a movie, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It was the true follow up to Garden State that The Last Kiss never was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some hybrid between Garden State and 500 Days of Summer is what
Yeah.
you experienced. Wow. Okay, so Hillside sounds pretty interesting. Why? Maybe this is a dumb question. Is the area just called Hillside, or because why not name it On an Island Festival rather than Hillside
Yeah,
Fest?
you know what?
You know?
It's been called that for I guess however long the festival's been going, maybe
Mm.
30, almost 40 years probably.
Oh, okay. Then I'm sure there's a very legitimate answer that somebody is screaming at me,
Yeah, and
into their phone.
I don't have the program on me right now.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Uh, where did you move to? Now you said where you are, but where did you move to when you first came back to Toronto? Like
So
neighborhood wise?
I lived in like I guess the Junction Triangle you'd call it.
Oh yeah, 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 okay.
So like Bloor and Symington.
And have you been doing the open mic since then?
It's actually I did it I did it for about a year into living into the city. So I moved back to Toronto July 2022, and I started the open mic at the Gaslight. Shouts to James and the Gaslight, and shouts to Low Bar too, which is now where Gaslight is. Anyway, I did that in June of last year, so 2023, and that
Yeah.
wrapped up when the Gaslight closed. And now Patrick Grant and I are running it in the Beacon Room at the new series at the Bell and the Beacon called the
Oh.
Sunday Song Circle. Uh,
Oh, okay. Yes, I've seen that. So the 2-2 Tuesday thing stopped.
no, that's a whole other thing. That's
Oh,
yeah,
whoa. Oh, okay. What? Okay,
yeah.
so you know what? Then maybe I'll just like provide slightly a bit of context. It seems like you host maybe two or three different things, plus you are a working and touring musician where you play around at the very least different parts of Ontario. I'm sure other provinces sometimes. Um, so yeah, maybe go in order of uh importance is the wrong word, but like biggest responsibility to smallest responsibility.
Yeah, at this point, my weekly responsibility in the nightlife scene is 22 Tuesday, which
Okay.
is at the 222 bar, the 222 corner of Dundas and Ossington. Same owners as like the Communist Daughter, Three Speed. It's a family kind of thing, but it's a nightclub. It's like a dive bar that looks like a 70s 70s ski chalet hotel lobby bar. Uh, but so it's not really a dive. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's really fun. But I run a karaoke night there every week called 22 Tuesday.
It's karaoke.
Karaoke.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how do you I'm just curious technically, how do you run that? Do you have a live band that's very talented? Do you just have you have the machine that we all are, yeah, that kind of thing, and then you
Oh,
host it?
it's simpler and more complicated at the same time. But
Okay.
it's just like it's a PA setup. It's my laptop. It's YouTube karaoke. So you just
Oh,
like
okay, yeah.
Google it. But what I do, what I bring to the table is I MC the entire night in a very involved way. So
Okay.
there's catchphrases. There's like every time you come up, like you get a big hoopla about if you're a first timer or an all timer or a regular. Lots of sound effects and I have a history of music journalism and radio broadcasting. So like I'll talk about the song itself and the artist before people get into it
Cool.
and
Cool.
make
I
it.
don't think I actually, sorry to cut you off. I don't think I actually knew that. Did you go to school for it, or is it you've just spent a lot of your working time doing things like that?
Oh,
Music journalism and radio.
I got a professional writing degree from York University.
Oh shit,
Uh,
okay.
so sort of specializing in like magazine journalism, which I took to. I wrote for a couple publications over the years, like Ox. I wrote for Noisy, like Vice.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Had a small town column in my hometown called Heart of Huron, which was about artists in the area every other week
That's
in the
cool.
Twin Cities Record. Then I went to school later in life, Fanshawe, for radio broadcasting. So I got a degree and a diploma in specifically very hyper focused in music journalism in several of its facets. Yeah.
I think that's so interesting that you went, or I find it interesting whenever people do this, they go the, dare I say, like Roger Ebert route, where they begin as a critic and then they go, fuck it, I can try it. And Roger Ebert, I would argue, failed. Like
Yeah.
he made a cult classic, but it's a cult classic because of who he is, not because it's good or bad. Um, but you have not done that. Like I would say, just by virtue of the fact that I first was introduced to you not as a writer or as a whatever, but as a singer songwriter performer, it automatically isn't the same as Ebert. But I like that people start there and come to it that way, because chances are you're not more thoughtful than a singer songwriter who doesn't have that, but you're differently thoughtful. You're maybe even more aware of some cliches or some pitfalls you can fall into.
Definitely, you sort of start from a uh,
Yes.
scholarly standpoint, like especially even like listenership and listening, right? Like I mean, still to this day, I wake up in the morning and I type in pitchfork.com, stereogum.com.
Oh yeah, I love Stereo Gum.
Yeah, I love Stereogum. I really
Yeah.
do. The number ones column right now, where they go through every number one that's ever been in the Billboard charts since the beginning.
Oh, I
They do
haven't been following that. That's cool.
so good, like long form essays. This writer Tom Brian, and like I got to the point where I really love music, and I was music obsessive when I was a kid. But
Yeah.
when you're getting to that stage when you're 17 years old and you got your civics and careers classes in your past, you're like, okay, so what do I do after this? Obviously, the cliche that you know about is you can't be the bum who just becomes a musician, right? Like
Right, right,
you
right.
got to find a way to monetize your life, and of course, monetize your life, be a freelance music public,
Yeah, yeah.
in the late 2000s. And that was the kind of thing too, whereas even as developing my craft as a songwriter, but being a writer, being a published writer, and doing the kind of concert reviews and long form essays and listicles and all that kind of stuff, watching my friends who were either musicians or music journalisms or a hybrid of both, you know, lose their jobs, like watching publications shutter or
Yeah.
scrap their entire editorial board and watch them move to different facets of, I guess like careers in music that aren't necessarily, playing the bottom of the lab on Brunswick for
Yes.
$3, Jameson's. But like how to, like it was like, well, clearly if music's not quote unquote sustainable or whatever, and music journalism isn't the same thing. And I was like, well, shit, man, I just got to do music. How about radio? like just like looking at the wall, right? Like,
Yeah, okay. So then explain to me how you make that switch.
after sort of doing music. I mean, I'm 35 myself. I was doing music for a while, and around 2014, I lived in London for about a year, London, Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just sort of puttering around after leaving Toronto and a bunch of other places and sort of figuring out what to do. And I thought, well, from what I can tell, I listened to satellite radio quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to a lot of CBC radio at the time, and knew I'm sort of a gabber. I'm a bit of a yacker. And so
Jibber jabber. Yeah.
I jab. Yeah. So
You even have words on your hands, you
yeah,
know?
that's right. Like all my tattoos are words basically, because I'm just like, yeah, I love those things.
Exactly.
um, but I was like, yeah, let's. I was just like trying to figure out what's the thing that makes the most sense. And at the time, it seemed radio, and it was a great education. And New York was too for the journalism.
Mm-hmm.
But I tried it out. I did a summer team. I had a Fanshawe is pretty great because instead of a college campus radio station, they have like a working FM style pop radio station for you to sort of hawk your wares on.
Oh, I don't
And
think I knew that. That's cool.
yeah, so I had a morning show quite often, right? Like the 6 to 10 drive.
Wow.
Yeah, which was fun, right? Like to wake up the morning, hey, it's Ivan Rivers in the morning,
Yeah, exactly.
103.9 DX. This
Yeah.
one, Solange, don't touch my hair. And then it's like,
Yeah. Explosion sounds for some reason, so
exactly.
effects like that.
And even then, even in school, they're telling you, yeah, it's tough. Like there's not a lot of jobs out there, right? And I think at a certain point, I realized, whatever a job is, what's my life's work, right? What's my life's work? And I think that's a way of reframing the idea of a career or reframing the
Definitely.
of a passion or a hobby. Like, and I don't got to be cliche about it, but when you dedicate so much of what you care about to, your art and your craft, and even just like, enjoying the things you do with your life, you can call that your life's work. You don't have to,
I,
put some goddamn, not even monetary, but like kind of like, you know, label on it that makes it okay for other people to understand what you do.
yes, yeah, no. I agree with you, and I think long term, that's a healthier way to think about things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
that's good.
especially when people like try to reframe it, they're like, you know, you're still doing that thing? I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay,
It,
yeah, I pick
it
up a guitar and write a song, man.
exactly. And also, as many people as maybe are saying that to you, I bet there are a bunch of other up and coming musicians who see what you do, even on social media, and are like, oh, fuck, I wish I could do that. So,
That's
as
yeah,
that guy's saying, that's still what you do, there's another guy going, that's still what you do. You've
yeah.
been able to carry on doing this thing. So, anyway, fuck those people.
But that's an
Uh,
enlightened way to think about it. I appreciate that. It's one of those things, you know. I feel sound and safe and sound in the life I've led, in the body of work I've accumulated, and I continue to accumulate. And you do find your people, right? Like you eventually you sort of whittle away
I think
the
so.
the knittering in your head, and that informs you in your biggest, bravest moments and in your weakest moments. But
Yes.
it's funny, like recontextualizing too, being like, okay, if I look at where I am and like who I revered when I
Hmm.
was a younger person, when I was a teenager, 20s, even late 20s, even early 30s, sort
Last
of
year.
last year, you know, like the way you revere certain people, whether they're in your scene, whether they're out of your scene, or even just like from afar, and you sort of see, okay, if I was, yeah, 18 years old and I met someone like me who's, you know, traveled and played some great shows and, you know, had some whatever metric of success, right? I'd be like, holy shit.
Yeah,
I
they'd
could
be impressed.
exactly. I can name so many bands like their CDs that, oh wow, they played the London, Ontario stop of Taste of Chaos in 2000, and that was amazing. Like shout out Shotgun Rules, but like, you know, like, like
I relate to that so much because especially in high school, even just I loved music, even just the thought of playing a battle of the bands in the city I was in, like Markham, was equivalent to if I had ever been in the popularity of the Beatles. Like those were equally unreachable to me. And now I've, at least for Battle of the Bands, come so much further than that. It's just like, think about your 17-year-old self. They would be wowed. No, you're not fucking, breaking $1 million money and deals, but like realistically, probably we've made it further than our old selves really would have thought we would. But I also want to say another thing about context changing or how you think about your heroes as you grow older. As soon as I turned 28, so I was then older than Kurt Cobain, my opinion about Kurt Cobain changed drastically. Not not for the lesser,
yeah,
but now I have the not anything close remotely. He lived an entirely different life. But now that I have been 27 and I've grown past that, it's so different to think about an idol that is younger than you.
yeah,
It's
sort of frozen.
so, because now if I think about 27-year-olds, I'm like, many of them, including myself when I was 27, are dumb fucks. And he probably was in many ways too. It doesn't lessen them. It almost realizes them. It makes them more. It humanizes them. It brings them back down from being this man with wings and a guitar.
Yeah,
You know.
the pillar,
Yeah, I
the
hope what I'm saying is not cynical and harsh. I hope what I'm saying is relatable.
no, that's exactly it. No, like it's. I think it's a funny thing. I went through so much of my life reading like alternative press and the top 25 under 25 and that kind of thing. That was like such a metric going
Hmm.
on in the back of my head. Reading these lists of like musicians who got those deals, got those tours.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And like as I near that age, like as I was nearing that
a
age,
panic sets in.
yeah, you're like, oh God,
Yeah,
what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
I haven't created pet sounds and I'm 28, so what the fuck?
What the fuck, man?
Yeah, but
And
the
so,
reality you have to think about back then too, like if you were like 18 in 1960, you were probably well on your way into a career already. Like
yeah.
people grew up faster.
Mhm.
It's just it's bizarre. It's bizarre to have to update your dreams based on idols who lived at another time to now.
Yeah, I think and it's not a fool's errand, but it's a funny way of clocking yourself. It's a funny
No,
way of clocking
yeah, it's
yourself.
not a fool's errand, but it's almost like, okay, I got to play darts, but the dartboard I'm aiming at is actually just off the dartboard I should be. I'm aiming
Yeah,
at the wrong dartboard.
yeah.
Uh,
Should be
yeah,
playing in the pool, you know.
exactly. Okay, well, speaking of this sad topic, let's get on to the first sad question, which is, what do you think is your worst gig experience?
Okay, yeah. Um, you know what? There's a
Ivan just cracked his knuckles before he said okay, just to let everybody know.
this one I think is like one of the most defeatist ones. Like one of the most like it's not even about like an empty show because we've all had those, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We've all had the shows that don't meet expectations, or like the
Hmm.
shows where you play with the hero and you don't lock in. I
Hmm.
really made a fool of myself with Mike Kinsella from American Football. I,
Ooh.
I opened up for him at the Great Hall as Owen, and I fumbled the friendship bag. Like I
Oh
remember started
no.
nerding out. I just started nerding out about like a polyvinyl 4 LP deal. We walked away. Like after the
Oh.
we could have done it. We could have been homies, and I fumbled the bag. But
Oh.
the one I would say is the worst and most humiliating. Um, Not even humiliating, just defeating.
No, no, sure.
I'm from a town called Clinton, Ontario, so Huron County, near like Lake Huron, west of Stratford, Ontario, north of London. Little chunk heartland, southwestern Ontario.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a town nearby is called Bayfield, and Bayfield had for quite a while. I mean, it is like it's a tourist destination. It's a nice little kind of like I don't want to say waspy cove on the Ontario's west coast where there's
If it's even near Stratford, then
yeah,
it's like that. Yeah, yeah. And I
well,
like Stratford, but
I
it's
love it.
definitely very could be a little Stepford Wives
It could
villagey.
be. I
Yeah.
know. Shout out to Stratford. I'm playing there tonight. I do love it there, but I also love Bayfield. But it's like what I'm trying to say is they call it the rural cultural elite, and the fact that it's like it's cottage homes, but it's also people who go and retire there. But it's also
Right.
got a strip of nice restaurants and nice little shops, and
Huh.
it's a little tourist destination. And for a number of years, it was getting like high octane, really good booking from a promoter out there. He would book a place either called the Black Dog, and do like secret sets. Like I remember I used to
Mm,
work at
cool.
Mayfield, and I'd walk off from a dishwashing shift, and Attack and Black were just sitting on the patio, and I was like, "What are you guys doing here?" And they're like, "Oh, we're playing a show." But he would just people would come from out of town and just play
That's
a
cool.
one-off show, like Daniel, Fred, and Julie, like Daniel Romano, Julie Dwar, and Fred Squire. Day of, you'd find out they're playing a set, like which Shotgun Jimmy in a cast. Like, okay, that's just what's happening
That's
today,
amazing.
which is great.
Yeah.
It blossomed into a series called the Bayfield Concert Series, which was at the town hall. Lots of great musicians like Jason Collette, Ron Sexsmith, Baja Bulat, lots of great artists.
Oh,
And
that's how you pronounce that. Okay.
I think it's Baja. I think it's Baja.
It's Sexsmith, right? Me talking
No,
about a different name. No, no, I'm completely doing a bit. Sorry.
no, it's a good bit. I'm Polish myself, so I was like, I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Baja, yeah, Richard, yeah. Anyway, but so there was a show, and I was so excited for it. It was John K. Sampson and the Weaker Thans, right? And
Mm,
like as someone who I play in a punk band, I also play indie folk music. That
mhm.
marriage of like literary and indie-minded approaches to punk rock or pop rock or whatever you want to call it. John was one of my favorite, and is one of my favorite musicians of all time. And I talked to the promoter. I was like, "Yo, Pete, I would love to open up this show. Like, you get a local opener. I was 20, 21 at the time. I was like, it would be amazing if I could get on this bill."
That's how
And
you do it. You just have to hope and be in the right spot in the right time.
especially with a guy, you sort of know who he is. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's not like an unattainable figure. He's the dude who gets my dad a free beer when we go for dinner, like at the
Yeah.
restaurant. But he's like, here's what I'll do. You can do the after party. I was like, you know what? That sounds great.
That's a
Sure.
fantastic concession.
Yeah, I'll take it. And that sounded like a really good, like, why wouldn't I do that? I'll
Mm.
go over, and it was like just down the street. It's a small town. And people went, like, that's the funnel. They go from the town hall, and if they're hanging out the rest of the night, they go to the Black Dog.
Mm.
And I was like, that's perfect. And maybe John will stop by, and all my teenage memories will
Yeah.
coalesce, and my hopes and dreams, and there you go.
I'll
We'll
get to
be,
call him Jay. We'll be
yeah,
best friends.
that's right. J Money, what's up?
Yeah.
So what happened is I get to the venue. I'm ready to see the show. And Pete comes up to me. He's like, they want you over at the Black Dog right now. What? He's like, no, your set's starting now. And instead of playing as the after party, he made me play during the show.
Oh.
And I just got to see one song. And then as I was wrapping up my set, I see, I remember my dad, who was still alive at the time, came in and he left the show early, bless him.
Oh,
But then I finish and people come in, like, and at that point,
no.
and it was like so unnecessary, such a like a greasy, weird, complex psychological power play that is should not be happening in a very small community where the artists and the promoters should not be like
Butting
starting
heads.
out. And it's a complicated relationship. I don't need to get too into, but it's a funny thing because even he just went back to the hotel he was staying. I didn't come out for the night. I would have much rather just watched the set. I
Right.
play at a restaurant gig when it's not even like afterwards. At least it would have been a bar gig. But I was
Yeah.
playing like late dinner hours, missing one of my favorite musicians in my home county, in like a town hall max cap, like
Ugh.
150 people. Insane behavior, insane, and
That
just so degrading, like degrading.
degrading, yeah. I see why that's the worst and worse than just playing to no one because that's par for the course when you're starting out. Like that, you know what I mean? Playing to very few people or whatever it should be, no water off my back or whatever the hell that duck saying is.
Yeah.
Um Duck invented that saying. But yeah, okay. Well then that sounds shitty. Uh do you still how long ago was that?
That was 2011.
Oh
2000.
Jesus, right. Okay, so then you've been back since things have changed over what?
We've had different relationships, the promoter and I, and over the years. But that stands true. And there's been other like kind of like greaseball moves. I played a show like opening for Patrick Cree from the Deers.
Okay.
And then sort of like was like, hey, you know what? I'm okay dragging it because if you did it to me, fuck you, man. Like you did it, man. I'm not the bad guy for talking about it. But it was like, I opened up the show for Patrick, and it was great. Not a well attended show only because it was like a weekday show. Blah blah blah.
That's understandable.
Yeah, and Patrick played great, and the tunes were good, and I mean, it was still a crowd. But say, hey, I don't really have any money for your set, but if you come back at Christmas time, I'll get you like the charcuterie board from the shop I'm working at now, and like an actual board cut made from the wood, Clan Gregor Square in Bayfield. I'm like, oh,
What the
that's a
fuck?
sentimental. I was like, okay, sure. I was like the sentimental gift of it, and the fact that I got the gig,
That's true.
and I was like, okay, you probably could pay me. That's okay. This is like you're steering in a different direction.
Wait, I have one question which will decide like how annoyed I am for you right now.
Hmm.
Before the set, did they say they'd pay you?
The thing is, it's implied. I don't think you play a set not getting paid. He didn't give me a guarantee, but
I
but
guess that's true, but I've been in some situations where I've been like, I'm pretty sure this is just he's doing me a favor by having me, and I'm doing him a favor by just doing it for free, I guess, is what I thought.
well, that's it. And it's like, and like I was living in Guelph at the time, but it was also local support. In the sense that I'm from the county.
Yes, that's
And
true.
a lot of
Okay,
people,
anyway. Okay,
and
continue.
the worst part was I got picked it up at Christmas. It was great, and then I went for a dinner with my aunt, and she pulls out this board. I'm like, where'd you get this board? You're putting Ritz crackers and cheese on. It looks exactly like this one, handcrafted from Clan Gregor Square. She's like, oh, I got it at Dollarama.
Oh my God.
And they just duped me.
This guy is an evil cartoon villain.
He sort of is. The problem is that he has done such like nice things for the community in terms of bringing out great talent. And I have had some good shows. We opened up for Joel Plaskett when I was playing guitar with a buddy at the town hall. That's a great show.
Oh, damn. Then I'd be like, hey, buy me some more of those
Give
charcuterie boards.
me that
Those are great.
charcuterie board.
Yeah, I love those.
But it
Uh,
was just like it's the maliciousness, the malice,
yes.
like, but in such a sly way, you don't really know how to feel about it. And I think after all these years, I'm just like,
Okay, sure, sure.
I'm airing my grievances and being like, "You piece of shit, man! Fuck you."
You got a good story out of it too.
Yeah, it's a good bit. It's a good bit.
I think that's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
Um, okay, okay. So you've been so active for so long in these various ways. Like, how I, I was going to say, how do you keep going? What? But I guess I don't mean how do you keep going because for a lot of musicians they just have a compulsion to make music, so that's not a mystery to me. But how have you kept it interesting for so long? Obviously, you've tried different kinds of music, like you're playing some punk stuff and you do indie folk stuff, but what is it like now? Like, how long have you been playing music years wise?
Years
Publicly, let's say.
publicly, I'd say since 2006 or seven, right? Like,
Okay, so you're coming up on 20 years in a
yeah, I
few.
guess so. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah.
So there you go. That's three times longer than many famous bands' careers. So I'm curious, you know?
Yeah, well, it's been interesting because there has been so many phases and stages to quote Willie Nelson, but the big thing is like I got my act stuck out here, the punk band I played in. We've been playing together since 2006.
Wow.
Like a punk band that it was in our buddy's basement, quite literally,
Mhm.
his childhood basement. Like we're still, we though we take our time between releases, we're still active and we're still friends. The three of us have been together since 2006, but everyone's from Huron County, even though
Yeah.
all of us live in basically in Toronto now. Um, so that's always been like this kind of like current, and like it comes in and out of like
It
focus.
ebbs and flows, but it's consistent.
It's consistent. And so over the years, I've hawked my wares in different ways. I used to go by Mikey Chuck Rivers in the early 2010s. It was like a sort of like a character, like a country bumpkin who read Haruki Murakami and Sylvia Plath.
I like that name. He also sounds like he could have been like a skateboard character in Tony Hawk.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, Mikey Chuck Rivers, Bam Margera,
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
Nat Hoffman. I guess it's the BMX guy, but yeah, but yeah.
Still the same.
But I mean, it's kind of like the kind of thing where I found different ways to get excited about it. So
Yeah.
I'd have my punk band. I had Mikey Chuck Rivers as like this, like kind of like like not really a thought experiment. I was trying to play confessional country folk music, but do it in a way where I wasn't just a sad guy on stage kind of thing.
Yes.
And I still keep some of that. But then I had a label called Eternal Bummer Records, which was a digital label that put out free MP3 files, like MP3 folders on like MediaFire, but had a blog and had a base of music from my home county.
Oh, cool.
So I would like put shows on in my childhood garage, and even when I wasn't living there in Clinton, Ontario,
Hmm.
and put out releases from these bands who started to get their careers going, whether they were in high school, whether they were side projects of bands who have since moved on to other things. But we had like a 30 plus release catalog, and for like that kind of era, pre Spotify, post Napster, MP3 blogs were such a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And like stuff like quote unquote records, which was Jeff Rosenstock's MP3 label, or in Toronto where I got a little inspiration, Juicebox Records, which put out
That's a cool name. I hadn't heard of that. Juicebox Records.
yeah, it's sort of white now, but it was like a sort of home for Southwestern Ontario and kind of you know Canadian punk rock and like a lot
Ah,
of releases. And big inspiration for me for sort of starting on that level. And so like I could do it in a way so I'm caring about music every day, even like as my leisure, right? It's like
yes.
read the blogs or stay up all night on SoulSeek downloading records or like go into the shop and then writing about music, right? As a journalist,
Hmm.
and starting a label and facilitating writing PR and copy for
Right.
other people's releases, then writing my own tunes in one voice and then writing my own tunes in another voice. It was just like it just was this wide net, and I think
You're a
it
sad guy playing a sad guy playing a sad guy.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's what it's exactly. That's what it sounds
Yeah.
like with that character. Well,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. So you basically had a bunch of sort of yes, they were all within music, but they were a bunch of different fires burning, kind of.
Yeah.
Well, I remember two things. Well, I have a question that I'm going to ask moving forward, but I just remember that we forgot to talk about your other two responsibilities for the open mics.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So do you want to quickly just name those?
Yeah, so I had the Gaslight open mic at the Gaslight, which is now Low Bar, but it was like a really community. I know that's the word de rigueur right now,
Yeah,
but it
yeah, yeah.
was but it was a neighborhood spot and a quiet night where people came out, would play a couple songs and just sort of hang out until last call, and it was candle lit and really nice and really chill and really fun. And gotta miss it. And now the new spot is also great. It's called the Sunday Song Circle. It's at the Beacon Room at the Bell and Beacon in Parkdale, co-run and pioneered by Patrick Grant, aka Rogue Tenant. He bartends, I think, like once a month at the Beacon, and it's when we're doing this open mic. And it's the Sunday Song Circle, and it's been really great too because we've had a lot of cool people swing by, great musicians swing by. It became pretty busy for a second, but yeah, 2 song sets. There's a piano there. It's in a beautiful room that's looks like an actual like wooden, like, I don't know, outside of St. Louis, Missouri, kind of like wood paneled Christmas
Wait,
lighting in the
is
back.
it on a second floor?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. It looks like you walked into a saloon.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I saw a show there a few weeks ago. But anyway, I was like, what the hell is this? I always assumed it wasn't this.
It's
It
pretty
looks like
new.
a facade from a Western movie. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really yeah, it looks like a stage. I'm actually filming a music video there on Tuesday.
It is ripe for that kind of thing.
It has to happen, right? And so we
It
figured,
might be ripe to host this podcast live and then have someone perform it after.
let's do it. Let's do this.
Yeah, that sounds okay.
Dara,
Well,
Alex and I are coming, Dara.
let's talk about it later. But okay, moving forward, I would love to hear what, just getting into your music more specifically. Well, first of all, are you going to go the punk lane or are you going to go indie folk lane when I ask you about song choices?
Both.
Okay,
One for
fantastic.
one song, one for the other kind.
Oh wow, okay,
Yeah.
beauty. Okay, then let's start with what do you think the best song is that you've released publicly so people can hear it?
I think right now, I'd love to say I have a tune on my record, The Fallen Ivan Rivers. That's the last song on the record. It's called Masonic Hall, sort of slash, is it too late now? But it's basically, all intents and purposes, called Masonic Hall. Um, it is the final song on my record, The Fallen Ivan Rivers, produced by Andrew Patton, who used to play in a band called The Most Loyal. We recorded the beds at the old Baldwin Street Sound at Aaron Goldstein's place.
Oh, cool,
And
cool.
he played pedal steel on it.
Such
My
a
buddy,
good pedal steel player. I mean, a multi-instrumentalist, but specifically that.
that I've been lucky enough to have him on a couple tracks since, and a couple records since 2016. And I can't imagine me even being, still like loving what I do so much without his input.
Wow.
Um, and that song, Pat from my punk band Stuck Out Here plays drums on it. But the whole song, the whole record is like a really kind of psychedelic, psychologically taxing, dream folk, indie folk, creepy folk record. And the
Creepy
last song it
folk.
all comes in, yeah, the last song it all comes into focus as the most literal the lyrics are. It's really about
Hmm.
my experiences with mania and psychosis and bipolar disorder, and it's sort of what happens when my life sort of goes astray. I will say,
Hmm.
just to gloss right over it, 5 years. Well, no episodes in 5 years.
Oh wow.
So I'm
Okay.
doing good, and I have enough distance from it too, where I don't have to focus on it creatively. I don't have to,
Good. I totally know what you mean, but yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It doesn't have to consume all of the subject matter that
Oh,
you. Yes,
I can make a
yes.
record, and maybe not that much of it is about like getting a little loopy sometimes.
Nevertheless,
Yeah.
so okay, that makes me think that you've talked about it a lot on past songs. However, you're choosing this song as not only it whatever best means to you, but the
Yeah.
best song, and it's still about a subject that you know no, feel like you've now moved on from. So to me, that's so interesting that basically what I'm wondering is this the best version of a song about that subject that you've done, and that's why you like it so much?
I think the way I usually write about the process is more about the fantastical elements. And I've
Hmm.
got songs I really love, and maybe even I'll say people love better. That or whatever, found a more metric of success, that deal with it in the fantastical way, don't address the subject head on,
I see.
talk about more of the like one thing of the psychedelic elements, right?
Yeah.
But this song, what I like about it is it's pretty, it's gorgeous, it's tender, it's literal, and some of the subject matter is pretty heavy. But what it feels like is like, if you've seen the show Twin Peaks, it
Yeah.
it feels like a true like a true Roadhouse band. It feels like
Nice.
it's me instead of Julie Cruz, or Thrive in Paradise Julie Cruz, but like me leading that kind of dream, like terrifying, barroom, red curtain swaying Roadhouse
Yes, yes.
vibe. And there's beautiful honky tonk piano on the track, Aaron Goldstein on the pedal steel, and like
Nice.
glockenspiel notes, and it feels like narcoleptic.
Yes, I know what you mean. It's uncanny the way that David Lynch stuff is. It's
Yeah,
just something feels off, but that's the correct flavor for what you're doing.
Yeah, and somehow still beautiful and
Yes, yes.
essential and very human. And I think,
What are those little song boxes where they pop open and they play something? Like it's creepy, but it's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. And the thing is, if you hear the track, it's actually pretty just gorgeous too. Like
Mm.
I have my share of like little creepy little tunes. Like like I got a song called "The Prayer of the Paralyzed Prayerless Healer" or something, right?
Sounds
Like,
like Alice Cooper.
yeah,
He would write something like that.
he might. Maybe I'm close to the Detroit border, so there you go.
Yeah.
But no, this one is just like it's like that. You can really picture like a slow motion dance scene and a tender moment before the calm, before the storm, before the
Okay.
calm. But it, and I've been able. I've got a full band playing these days with me. We put it in the set for the first time.
I was just
With
gonna ask. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's fairly new to your set. It's not something you've been honing privately or playing solo.
I played a couple times solo, but it's just
Hmm.
so it's a pretty song, but the words themselves they carry such a it's very literal, right? So it's
And when you don't have the entire band to sort of soften the blow of it, when it's just your lyrics and your guitar,
yeah,
the lyrics become the movie star.
exactly.
Everybody just focuses on that. So that would make those hard hitting lyrics hit harder.
It hit harder, and they're also hard to deliver in a certain respect too, right?
Uh-huh, right, right.
But I think that's why with the fantastical stuff, it's easier not only to sing but to experience it without pulling everybody into that moment with you. And
It's a lot easier to speak euphemistically or with symbolism as opposed to just being like, I feel sad because of these
yeah,
reasons in this verse.
yeah, this entirely sad verse about ghosts and thinking you're watching a bunch of witches moving chairs in the Masonic Hall at a Bahamas concert in Stratford. You know, like maybe that doesn't come across as like universal or even as like captivating because in the context of a song and a recorded song, it's just sounds so beautiful to me, and it's the thing I love hearing, and it's the last song of the record, and you go on this 6 to 7 song. I call it an album, The Fallen Ivan Rivers. The way it lands in the last record on the last song, it's just such a cozy and dreamlike place to land, but it's not shying away from the realities of the situation, and I love
Cool.
it. I'm so proud of it. Yeah,
Well, while you just told us about it, I'll probably, if I'm not lazy editing, add a little snippet so people. That's what I'm gonna start doing with the best song.
yeah.
We're gonna hear the full worst song at the end, but I would like to just provide a little bit of sunlight through the clouds for best song as well. So hopefully that has played, listeners, and you enjoyed it, and you go look for it. So let's get back to cloud cover, and I would love to hear what you think your worst song is and why.
Okay. And you know what? No shade to anything, but to myself, I guess.
No, 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 no.
Our band is called Stuck Out Here. We've been playing together, as I said, since high school. But before we were called Stuck Out Here, we were called Streetcore. Now,
Which is now a fashion term, I believe.
I think so. And at
Or
one point,
was it then? Is that how you got it?
so we got it from. It was the last record from Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros.
Oh, yes, his like 2000s band.
That's right.
Yeah,
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 it's just it was released after he died. Joe Strummer from the Clash,
yeah.
and the last album was called Streetcore. And we were a bunch of roots-leaning punks in Huron County, and
So
so
that's pretty perfect. That's kind of what he was doing.
that's what he was doing. And I played soccer with my buddy Cam, who's the other songwriter, and Stuck Out Here. So we both love the Clash. We both love Bright Eyes.
Mm.
We came together against me. We came together on these things. Pat was our drummer. Impressionable loved his punk rock. Like his golden. I mean, what I mean by his impressionable is like he's got a voracious appetite for music. Even as a
Right.
14-year-old, he was playing drums around everyone in the county. like,
There's
but
always that kid who's like,
yeah, well, exactly, he's
just
tapping on the
on
bass.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, and he's got 2 jazz drumming degrees, like one from Humber and one from U of T,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and primarily he plays punk rock, right? So like it's like, but he's got like such a voracious appetite, but he fell in love with the same stuff we did too, and so we called it streetcore, and we were sort of doing like what we thought was against me, kind of mixed with Bright Eyes, mixed with the Clash,
Mm-hmm.
roots based approach, like as you would call it back then, folk punk.
Mm-hmm.
But more stress more the punk and more the balladry, not like the. And once again, no offense, not like the scumfuck side of folk punk, like the
What is scumfuck? I don't know
I
what
mean
that
like
is.
the you know the greasy hair Dorito stains.
Oh, is that a traditional term for those people, or
No,
no? You
that's
just
me mean. That's me being me.
oh oh wow, okay, wow. The
Not me.
keywords for this episode are going to be
Scum
fantastic.
punk,
Yeah,
folk punk. I
yeah.
mean, like the crustier sides of folk punk, where it's
I
like,
gotcha.
yeah, and I'm not no once again no disrespect. We just were a lot more tune focused and lot and not even once again I love to fly so high. I love
You're like, we loved being in key.
yeah. Even then, yes, maybe is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha, gotcha.
But and because we looked outside of just certain circles of punk rock and folk expression, and we were a full band. Anyway, we had a band. Our first record was called "I'll Be Found One Day." Very ambitious, kind of like taking all these influences of like a big Bright Eyes record with like there was strings on it, there was horns on it, there was acoustic guitars, there was keys. The thing is, we were working with a producer at the time who mostly did like grindcore,
Hmm.
and like
Okay.
metal music
Pretty
and
different.
pretty different, and like and was a great producer back home and still is, and like honestly, an incredible producer, Thomas Ireland. But when we were very young with this big ambition of like orchestral folk punk, uh, not everything landed, and also we weren't that good of musicians yet. So like,
And if I can just jump in, I say this for myself too. Sometimes you don't even know the best way to express what you want. Like
yeah,
now you're saying those three words, whatever you said, orchestral folk punk,
you know,
but that's probably taken you the years since to really nail down the essence of it and call it that. Because at the time, yes, those terms were all around, but it's not like you can necessarily point to a bunch of famous examples of what you're talking about. So
yeah.
communication is just brutal, especially when you're younger, is all I mean.
And also self-awareness, like knowing how
Yes.
we had a wide palette to pull our influences from, but how to translate that to someone whose focus is something different. Not it's once again not his fault.
No,
And it,
no, you have to speak language. Sometimes with musical ideas, you have to just speak in references. And if you don't have those references like locked, then you're talking at each other. Like one of you might as well be speaking Italian and one of you speaking Greek.
well, and that's the thing. It was a lot of the record was really great. Um, I like listening to it. It's ambitious, and the lyrics even are like corny because we wrote them when we were teenagers, right?
Yeah, they
So
should be.
they should be. They're the grand existential feelings of
Right,
small
right.
town, get out of this town, pop punk too, right? Like So my worst song I'm offering is the song "Last Night on the Town" by Streetcore from the record "I'll Be Found One Day." I wrote the tune. Cam and I share songwriting duties, and I wrote this one. And what I think I was going for was like
Well, just before you get into it, to double check, is this is available to publicly listen to, right?
on Spotify.
Okay, fantastic. Okay,
Yeah,
so continue.
"I'll Be Found One Day" is the record. Sorry, uh, "Last Night on the Town" by Streetcore, and
Hmm.
we don't talk about this much. We don't post that when this record's available. I think Indie Pool put it out online in like 2009, and whatever residuals were made, we never saw. But the song is, I think, me as a teenager falling in love with the Hold Steady, which is like like Twin Cities,
Yeah,
barroom power pop rock,
yeah.
and trying to do like organ based, like big, like lyrically ambitious, but like pointed party rock about what it
Oh,
sucks, how it sucks to party sometimes.
okay, okay.
um, until like a song like "Party Pit" by the Hold Steady was what I was going for, but the song itself is just it doesn't land. The keyboard was played by now my ex-wife, but my girlfriend at the time, who and she played great. It's this organ sound, but it sounds like a baseball. Let's all go like get some peanuts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
At the whatever the
Right.
baseball is.
Yep, yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's got that organ tone on it. It's fun,
No,
and
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, and it's got this cheap, tricky kind of riff that wasn't played very well because we were teenagers.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
and the whole sentiment is the song is like, oh, I'm going to a bar, a hometown bar, and there's everyone from high school, and goddamn, everyone wants to, wait in line, and everyone wants to drink their bud in their bushes and get drunk and screw, and goddamn, I fucking hate these people. And like,
What's so funny about that too is, and by the way, I relate to that, and that is a great basis for a song subject. But I always find it's also it's always against your town, not the activities. Because it's like now I'm in Toronto. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
get drunk and wait in line and have some
yeah.
beers or whatever. It's
It's,
where you were. You know what I mean?
it's like specifically, yeah. It's no, the town's got it wrong.
It's
This is
yeah,
what they like to do. This is what they like to do. Fuck this place,
yeah.
man.
Fuck this place. It's worst place than everywhere.
Well, and there's like some really groan worthy lyrics on it too, right? Like there's like it's like but me like trying to do like a little like yeah, once again like cheap trick swagger almost,
Yep,
right?
yep, yep.
There's like the second verse is like the girls prop their chest up far, the boys arrive, yeah, they're acting hard.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, they pour like drones from their father's car,
Drones?
But they pour like drones from their father's cars, like
Poor, oh yes, poor like drones.
yeah,
Wow, I'm excited for this. I hope people
it's
are
it's
licking their chops here, hearing
it's
these.
it's I can it's like the hooks are fun, but it's just groan worthy, right? Like lyric where you show up to the bar and it's like the band starts, yeah, they sound all right.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lyric that's just the absolute worst. I just gotta say it. It's like um, it's like their eyes are gone. There's no human there. A pool of fish and ass-hungry bears.
Oh my
And then
God.
and I don't want to get laid. It's like almost inadvertently like a pre-incel anthem, but it wasn't.
Look, you said it, not me. Okay.
I said it. That's why I'm saying it's the worst, man.
What's so funny about that too is I swear a past guest kind of they sort of realized it as they were bringing it up too. That was it's just clearly something. It's like the people don't understand
Yeah,
kind of stuff, but unfortunately,
might have been
the
me.
spotlight pointed at, yeah, it might have been you. Might have been me at the end of the day. Actually, I did not understand.
The funny thing is, like, there's another part where the one of the big hooks at one point is like, these people are not my friends. And I after all these years have passed, there's a lot of those small town, not even small, I want to say small town, a lot of my high school friends and non-friends who, as the years went on, they were actually just nice and sweet and supportive. As we kept playing that same bar, even years later,
Totally.
right? They'd come up and be like, "Oh, how you doing? Oh, that's awesome." You know what I mean? Like everyone mellows out. You
Everyone mellows out. Everything is so heightened when you're all together in high school. Everything feels like the end of the world, and then you get 10 years past and you look back and you're like, that is laughable.
yeah,
None of it mattered. Like maybe it mattered intrinsically, but very rarely does it stick with you for that long
oh,
unless it's a well, we don't need to go down a crazy route, but just generally, high school stuff doesn't isn't as important as you think it is when you're in high school.
no, God, and people do have the capacity for growth and change.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that too. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
People can change.
people can change, and some, especially in the context of small town Ontario, some people definitely don't, or they change for the worse. They harden, but you can harden anywhere you go.
Totally.
Um,
And that's a good question to flip on yourself and be like, would I like me looking back at 17? I'm sure I had a lot of fucking issues, you know. I'm sure it wasn't as likable as I thought I was or as right as I thought I was.
yeah,
So,
I feel like a
yeah.
lot of times if you ever watched 30 Rock, when Tina Fey like goes
Oh
back
yeah.
to her high school reunion, it was like, man, those people were just such jags and bullies to me. And then it's like, no, you were the fucking bully. You were the big,
Right.
weird arty one in the corner being judgmental to everybody.
Right, right. Exact. No, no, it's so true. It's hilarious what just the slightest bit of distance does for self-awareness.
100%.
Um, Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. This was a great conversation. I'm super happy we began it about George Harrison because I could talk
Yeah.
about that forever.
Here you
Have
go.
you
All things must pass.
all
Here we
things must pass,
full circle
including high
moment.
school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you just out of curiosity, going back to that, have you seen the Scorsese 4 hour two-part blah 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 documentary?
No, not
You
yet.
gotta watch that.
Gotta watch it. I gotta watch it. I
That
don't know
should
the
be your
first film.
Sunday.
That sounds lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's fantastic. It's beautiful. Did you watch the Beatles Get Back thing with Peter Jackson?
No, only because I can't stand John Lennon, but that's a whole other problem. I'm a
We should do a
Paul.
podcast about that. You're a
Yeah,
Paul guy, eh?
I love Paul. Yeah.
If you had made me bet, just maybe not just from this conversation, but a past but just my incorrect, I guess now, perception of you and your demeanor, I would have thought Lennon was your guy.
And you know what? I respect that, but I'm a hot take. I'm a hot take machine when it comes to that whole ordeal. Uh,
Yeah,
but I just love Paul. The song
I
craft.
I love Paul too. He's
Yeah.
he's by far the best with melody.
Mhm.
He's, in my opinion, by far the worst lyricist of the Beatles. I mean, I'm not even gonna count Ringo, but to me, he's or his depths are deeper. That's what
Yeah.
I mean.
Sure.
And to me, George Harrison is actually, on average, maybe the best, like hitting 70% good song record. Like I think Paul McCartney has some god awful songs, and so does John Lennon.
Oh yeah.
Their highs are super high and higher than George Harrison, but just on average, I think Harrison hit. He might have the best sort of batter record if we're going with
Yeah, and like yeah,
baseball.
the pure like like the sturdy songcraft, like
Yes, that's what I mean. And also, he wasn't afraid of these like murky. John Lennon, you felt he was going to go angry or hippie.
yeah,
McCartney, you felt James Brown style McCartney or lovely Linda McCartney.
yeah.
George Harrison, yes, his religiosity stuff can get grating or tiring or preachy, but just in terms of like melody and getting into a mysterious chord progression or a melancholy chord progression,
Mm.
he's like the only one capable of it in the beat. It seemed like I don't know what it is.
He's goaded. He's just goaded.
He's fucking goated, bro.
Fucking goaded, bro.
Uh,
I
well,
told
thank you again so much for coming on. Just please state your name again, state the song name and the band name if you'd like, and yeah, take it out.
Sweet. I'm Ivan Rivers. I got a new record called I Give coming out August 22nd. My worst song I've ever written is my worst song ever is Last Night on the Town by the band Streetcore from the record I'll Be Found One Day.
Say goodbye to the year 18. Welcome to the majority. Looking sharp and acting clean. Attention's for the best. The first line starts the night. The band starts you, they sound alright. Here comes some friends I haven't seen in a while. Here comes the unrest. Ah, take your last look at me now. Ah, it's my last night on the town. The girls brought up your chest of fun. The boys around you, they're acting hard. They pulling drums from their father's car. Tonight they'll have it made. The stench of us is a pungent air. Their eyes are gone, there's no human there. A pool of fishing ass hungry bears. I don't want to get laid. Oh, take your last look at me now. Oh, it's my last night on the town. Oh, take your last look at me now. Oh, it's my last night on the town. And I don't know why I'm standing here. I'm thinking like I know what I'm talking about. I'm talking like the words of your mouth. I'm not hungry or lonely or pathetic or scared. I just don't understand why I'm standing here. I'm shitting out my mouth in some lame conversation. Like what's in my head is any justification. I pour the rest of this class into everyone's ear. I just don't understand why I'm standing here. These people are not my friends. What makes them know they started? These people are not my friends. You'll never see me in this goddamn heart again. Oh, take your last look at me now. Oh, it's my last night on the town. These people are not my friends. So take them down, they come and leave one dead. These people are not my friends. You'll never see me in this goddamn heart again.
Hey, you reached the end of the song and the episode. If you want to hear next episode or whatever the newest is, whatever time you're listening, just go to the Patreon. It's $1 a month. You get a few different things. You get to hear who the upcoming guests are. In some cases, you get video. In some cases, you get what I call mini-sodes, which is a lot of what I'm doing right now. So thanks again for listening, and hope you check out another episode. Have a good day.